And welcome to another edition of Fly Like an Eagle podcast. Wednesday night, we're here every single week at 7 o'clock or 7:10, if you want to be specific. I'm Kyle. That's Scott. We're here to bring you the greatest Eagles content weekly, and here we're here to bring you the Bengals Eagles Week 8 preview. Sorry, it's been a long day, and yeah, we're ready to roll, and hopefully we could get the monkey off our back when it comes to going to Cincinnati and playing a decent game. But without further ado, what's up, Scott?
It's actually it's week Kyle 7. It's week 7, Kyle.
I thought it was week 8.
Or no, you're right. No, it's week 8. I'm a dumbass.
Yeah, yeah, of course it's week
Well, it
8.
kind of feels like the season's flying
It's
by, but
flying.
the Eagles still have 11 games to go, 11 straight games, so that'll be fun.
Yeah,
But I'm doing balls for a
I
little bit
think
of a crazy week.
I think you got mixed up because we got the bye week so early, and that's why.
Yeah, 100%. As I was saying, it's been a crazy week, but it finally a good week where we don't have to shit on anyone really, in particular with this team. There's definitely been a positive vibe after that blowout of the Giants. And like me and you said, it's been on our post-game show on Sunday night. It's been a while since we can say that we actually blew someone out, took control of the game. The game was never in doubt, past the first quarter when it was scoreless. So I definitely feel like a little bit of like confidence. Now, it's still a question mark because you just beat the Browns and the Giants back to back, two of the worst teams in the league, besides like the Patriots and the Jaguars, whoever fill in the blank. So yeah, this will finally be a true test. And like you said, historically, we have not beat the Bengals since I think the 90s, right? Do we beat them in the 2000s? Maybe once in the early 2000s.
So I was looking all the way back to 2000, and we had 2 ties against them. The last one was against Joe Burrow in 2020 when Fletcher Cox took him out and he ruptured his ACL. Well, tore his ACL. And back in 2008, where Donovan didn't know the rules of overtime, and we tied them 13-13. So those are the 2 times we tied them, but we have never beaten them ever since 2000. Yeah, the year 2000. It's either been ties or losses.
And yeah, that's weird. Our last 2 ties and only 2 ties in me and yours lifetime. I believe there was one in 98, but since we've been Eagles fans, it's been against this Bengals team. So it's like, what are the odds with that? I believe I know the last game was in Cincinnati, right? I'm not sure about the Donovan game. That was in Cincinnati.
No, the last game was at the Link because that's when we took out Joe Burrow, and everyone was just shitting on the Eagles.
Was it? It doesn't even matter. Well, again, we're going back there again. If that game in 2020 was at the Link, I'll have to look that up.
Yep.
But yeah, and the Bengals are definitely, on the upswing. After starting, did they start 2-4? They're 3-4 now.
I think they started under. I think they started under 500.
I think they started like 0-3, maybe.
Yeah, because I remember they lost to Washington Commanders and they lost to I'm trying to think. Yeah, they definitely lost to Washington.
I'm pulling everything up, guys. We're gonna get our fucking facts straight. So
yeah,
don't worry about that. The point is, Joe Burrow is playing better, and this is going to finally be a somewhat of a real test. Now, after the bye week, everyone was saying, oh, we have some easy games, cupcake games, but I know me and Kyle never included this one in that little trail between the Browns and the Jaguars. So it should be an interesting and fun game because you have a lot of talented players on the other side, in particular, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. This defense is no slouch either. Now, I know that they haven't been stellar, and also they've been having some special teams issues. So I think that this game could come down to either, a defense forcing a turnover, which we have not been good recently, or some type of special teams error or a long field goal. And unfortunately, Jake Elliott is 0 for 2 in 50-plus yards field goals so far this year. So there's still a lot of things to get right, some small details, and that's what the NFL is all about. Who makes the least mistakes, especially when teams are evenly matched. Now, the Eagles do have a decent record at 4-2. I mean, you have to be positive about that. They're only a half game behind Washington now. They're a game and a half over Dallas at this point.
Mhm.
Yes. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but again, you beat the Browns barely, and then you killed the Giants. So there's still a lot to prove, and just want to get your take on that, Kyle, and what you see. What's your expectations for Sunday?
So, I mean, the last couple of weeks, the Giants game on Sunday was eye-opening to me because I thought it was going to be a closer game to that. Now, ultimately, I did think we were going to win, which we did. But the fact that they only limited them to 3 points and Malik Neighbors was put in handcuffs all day, like absolute handcuffs, when Quinyon was defending him. There was this one clip where he pressed him so hard that it just looked like he was making him his child. Like it's just it was so brutal, that coverage on Malik Neighbors. Neighbors is gifted, very gifted. Like going into the show, I thought he had the potential to be a top 5 wide receiver in this league based off his first 3 weeks in the league. And he was just putting up numbers. He was breaking ankles. But once he faced Quinyon, man, it's like he turned into an ordinary receiver. And that's how crazy it is to have a cornerback like Quinyon. We never have cornerbacks like him. And I'm talking about Darius Slay as well. Darius Slay is a good cornerback, but it looks like Quinyon's just naturally gifted, like maybe a Darrell Revis type, Jalen Ramsey type. And this guy's a rookie. He's in his first, what is it now, 6 games as a Philadelphia Eagle. And
So yeah,
he's
this will be his 7th. Yeah.
yeah, and he's just going to get better. And you know what? The defense has come to play every single week. They've had some blow-ups. I understand that. But the fact that people want to consistently blame this defense for not getting the job done, I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, I think the defense has been very good. I think there have been times where they've looked weak, but that's any defense in the NFL. Look at the Jets last week. They looked awful. And this week they're getting Hassan Reddick back. So
Are
we're
the
going to see.
Jets done? I mean, they kind of collapsed. They needed to beat Pittsburgh. So I
Nah,
mean,
I think that was.
at 2-5, that's going to be hard to come back from.
I feel like that was more of a no film thing and not knowing what to expect when it came to Russell Wilson in that system. That's why I feel like they got blown out. But the Jets will be fine with Hassan Reddick because it adds pressure to the defensive line. But I just feel like our defense in whole is a top 10 defense right now. And the offense came to play. Jalen Hurts looked good. A.J. Brown looked good. And Saquon Barkley looked like the Saquon Barkley I thought was going to come to this team for the whole season. Like it finally showed up. It's better late than never. And he looked phenomenal. So I'm gonna lay back a little bit. I'm gonna hold off on saying this team's back. I'm gonna hold off on saying that we're contenders again until I see more. But if we win on Sunday, it'll put me more towards saying that the Eagles are back in contendership more than they are pretenders. So I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and I know me and you, I mean, I picked this as a loss before the season, and I know me and you were a little concerned. But if you look at the Bengals' schedule, their 3 wins are against the Panthers, Giants, and Browns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, literally 3 of the worst teams, 3 bottom 5 teams in the league. They lost to that Patriots week 1, which knocked hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people out of their survivor pools right away to start the year. And then they lost to 3 other good teams, the Chiefs, Commanders, and the Ravens.
Yeah.
Now, all of those 3 other games were very competitive. They lost to the Chiefs by 1. They lost to Washington 38-33. And I remember that awesome overtime game against the Ravens when it was just an offensive fireworks showdown. So I'm going to, spoiler, I'm going to pick the Eagles to actually go in and win this week just because, I don't know, they only beat the Giants 17-7. They beat the Browns last week when the Browns actually could have won that game if they had any resemblance of a good quarterback, even before Deshaun went out and after Deshaun went out. Also, the Browns made a ton of mistakes in that game. So, yeah, Joe Burrow has definitely, I don't want to say he's fully back. You could say that, but he's a lot better than he's been recently. But so is this Eagles team. And ultimately, this Eagles team has more talent than the Bengals at this point. You have to feel confident after Saquon put up 176 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Also, did you hear that he was close to his, most rushing yards in a game, I believe, and Sirianni asked him, do you want to break your record? And Saquon said no, like feed the other guys the ball.
Yeah, he had 11 yards to go for the record when opposing players go back to their teams that they were drafted by and getting yardage on them. So he would have got that record if he would have got it. And there's no doubt in my mind he would have got it. But Saquon was like, I'm good. The Giants suck. I don't need to do it on them and just feed the other guys. That's basically what he was thinking because he was like, yeah, why would I go out there? But at the same time, why would I risk injury going against this sucky ass team that's probably trying to aim for my knees anyway because they don't like me? So why would I go back out there and try to do something that I could pull whenever else? So honestly, I like the fact that Saquon did that. And I like even more that Nick gave him the option to do it, which means that he's a player's coach and the players actually like him. So everyone could kiss my ass when it comes to that. I was right about that. Nick Sirianni is a good guy. People like him, and he's not a bad coach. So fuck off with that.
He's definitely controversial.
Mhm.
It's like when he's good, he's great, and when he's bad and looks like an idiot. I don't think there's really anything in between.
Yeah.
But this team has a winning formula. And also, I was also thinking, the Cardinals won on Monday night with Jonathan Gannon. The Colts are still somehow 4-3 with Anthony Richardson. And, those were our coordinators in 2022. And that formula, that team, those coaches, they just know how to win. They know how to win games, whatever it takes, by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles, that's their philosophy that those coordinators brought to those other franchises in Arizona and Indianapolis. And I think that's what we're seeing with Sirianni, because that game this past week, it did remind you a lot of 2022, of course, when they blew the Giants out twice. And again, you could say it's just the Giants, it's just the Browns, but especially that Giants game, it can give you some confidence to build upon, for the rest of the season, hopefully. But again, besides the Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow factor, nothing really scares me about the Bengals. Of course, this game, I guess we should talk about this a little bit. It was flexed to 1:00 in favor of Chicago and Washington, which was obviously battles of the first and second round quarterbacks from this year's past draft, even though Jalen Daniels is now hurt. So he might not exactly play. So I'm not sure they're happy about that.
Yeah.
Of course, somehow Marcus Mariota came in. We know he was here last year and just kind of stunk it up in the preseason. So that's interesting that he's playing well with Cliff Kingsbury in that offense. And then the Eagles also got flexed out of Sunday night in 2 weeks, right? Or is it next?
Yeah, against Jacksonville.
And that was replaced by Minnesota Indy. So what do you think about that? I don't think I can ever remember a season where we got, there might be one, maybe like 2012 or 2015. Actually, I think we got flexed in. Remember that Cardinals game on Sunday night in 2015? We got blown out. Do you remember a season where we have gotten flexed out of prime time twice?
It's been a while. It's been a while, not once but twice. But you have to look at the bigger picture. So the first matchup that we got flexed out of, I don't really think it makes much sense because you have Joe Burrow and you have Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's an all-star matchup with Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Zach Moss. You could even throw in there Jamar Chase. Like they have playmakers on the other side. That one didn't make as much sense, especially because they're replacing it with Chicago and Washington, especially with Jaden Daniels not even playing now.
Well, when they changed it, he was.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
They can't change it. They can't change it back.
Even with Jaden Daniels, though, I would have laid off of that, because that the Eagles and Bengals have been here for 4 years with the same exact current team. So they're going to bring you. But you don't really know what Chicago and Washington's
The only thing is those markets are so big, so it would equal ratings like Washington and Chicago.
Yeah, but Philly's the biggest of all. So it's like you really have to look at it and realize what numbers you're going to lose to what numbers you're going to gain. And I don't get this one. I really don't. But
Cincinnati is one of the smallest markets. So
yeah, but
that makes sense to me.
But people like Burrow. So, it's one of those things where they could have got national ratings for it. But nor here nor there. That one doesn't make any sense. The Jacksonville Jaguars one does make sense. You're not taking it completely out of the spotlight. It's going to 425, and that's still a prime spot to show a game
I'm not
in.
sure if we lost Kyle or me.
Oh shit!
Sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna come right back in.
All right, so he's gonna come back in. Apparently, he got lost, but I don't know. Maybe I'll take a look on the stream and see where he's at. But yeah, nor here nor there. Yeah, I'm talking right now. I'm live. Nor here nor there. Yeah, I just feel like the one that got flexed out, the Jacksonville versus Eagles game, I feel that was the right one to do just because you back.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good. I was basically telling them that Jacksonville versus Eagles, I feel like that was the right one to get flexed out of Sunday Night Football because the Jacksonville Jaguars are awful. They're just a terrible football
Yeah, but
team.
then are we gonna get flexed out again when we play the Rams? Like seriously, I mean they're not.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean they the problem with the schedule makers are they rely on the Eagles way too much to produce ratings, but when we were kind of going off of the cliff a little bit, they panicked. So they were trying to brainstorm and see what they could have got instead. But now that the Eagles are starting to get a little bit better by the looks of it, maybe they made a bad decision. But then again, the one against Jacksonville, it makes sense because Jacksonville's such a bad team, and Dougie P already came back to Philly. Everyone seems to forget because it was raining that day. So he already came back to Philly.
Wait, you were there, or were we both there?
No, I wasn't there. I was
Okay,
gonna go
I
the
wasn't
last
there
second
either.
because I would have got $40 tickets in the rain for like a great section, but I didn't go. Um,
We were at
but
a rain. Remember, we were at the rain game 2017. Were we at Denver or San Francisco?
we were
Remember?
San Francisco.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, CJ Beathard. I remember that one.
Yeah, we blew them out. I think it was like 30-10 or 33, something like that.
Yeah.
Another. Sorry,
the
go
thing,
ahead.
the thing that boggles my mind is the game that got replaced by it. It's Minnesota and Indianapolis. Like I don't really get that one. I feel like both teams are kind of performing well, especially Minnesota that just came off that loss to the Lions. Anyone could have won that game, But Indianapolis, I don't really get. But I just
They
feel
have
like
a winning. They'll have a winning record or be at 500. That's the only thing that makes sense. Like legit, the only thing.
But I get why they flexed this out. They just needed to find another game. They found it.
So Nick, I was actually going to bring that up about potential games that could be flexed in. Unfortunately, the Pittsburgh game won't be because that's going to be America's Game of the Week on Fox that week. It's like protected, they call it.
Yeah.
The only game that I could see that's like good and actually realistically that's not protected. Now we know that we're already playing them.
Yeah, so I think Scott's having some issues with his setup here, but he's basically saying that Nick is.
Sorry, I don't know.
No, you're good. Try to figure out what's happening and just come back in, I guess. But basically,
sorry, I think it's working now. But like I was saying, I think that game at Washington could be flexed to Sunday night, and of course, we're already playing them on Thursday Night Football. But yeah, I mean that's the only game that's really possible that I could see. The Ravens game's protected by CBS. And also another fun fact: we're playing starting this week. We're playing 3 straight games on CBS. I don't remember that ever happening either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very rare because usually the AFC plays on CBS.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what were you saying when my connection shooted out?
No, I was basically saying that you were right about the whole America's Game of the Week. It's always protected for Fox, and there's nothing you can do about that. So you were right about that. But it looks like we have Scott on mic for the rest of the show because his picture is gone. It's in a still shot right now. So we have him just in one little picture, and that's all you're going to get for the rest of the show.
I don't know what is happening. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's all right. You're good. But as long as we could hear you, that's all that matters. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I tend to agree with you. I think something has to give, and I feel like the Eagles are going to go into Cincinnati and win this game. It could be an ugly win, but they're kind of on a roll right now, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They'll go in there, they'll beat them, and the Eagles wouldn't lose to the Patriots. The Bengals did, so I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I agree with you, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that scares me is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I also want to touch on Cooper DeJean. I know you talked about Quinion earlier. The way how well he's played the last 2 weeks honestly shocked me because I was talking some shit on him in that Tampa game when he was returning punts. I also just said he looks so tiny and so small. And like, I don't even understand it, to be honest. Like, how is this kid like a beast? And, freaking, I won't say he's running people over, but he's attacking the ball, he's making tackles. Like, is that just like, I don't want to judge his size, but like, yeah, like, is that surprising to you at all? I know you're more familiar with him in college than I am, but
Not at all, because you look like you told me a couple years ago when I was at the hockey game. It was Detroit versus Flyers. You look at some of these athletes and you're like, how the hell are they an athlete? And all of a sudden they hop over the bench and they're just fast as hell. It's natural ability. It's just a God's gift to earth. Like you just got it or you don't,
now do
and
you
that's
think that I mean, obviously he's young, so naturally, but do you think he's gonna like bulk up and become bigger and just like natural, like, just get older and
No, I just think he is what he is. And he's fast as hell. He's good at kick returns, and he's just going to get better. I think he's going to be great in this league. And the fact that we have two top picks we got two picks that were supposed to go in the first round. We got one in the second, one in the first, and they're both working out so far. That's a Howie masterclass right there. And usually I don't say that about Howie.
no, it definitely is. It's great because we haven't, our secondary has never had this much depth ever since the days of, when Sheldon Brown and Lito Shepherd were actually backing up Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor in the early 2000s. So it's been that long. Of course, we've had, Asante Samuel and Patrick Robinson good a couple years. Obviously, Darius Slay the past couple years, one great year from James Bradbury. That's another thing, Sidney Brown coming back this week. Eventually you'll get back James Bradbury. So you're even going to have more depth, which is kind of crazy. So that's
Sure.
definitely something to look forward to. So I guess you would call Saquon Barkley the player of the game versus the Giants. Obviously, he was just absolutely amazing, shredding his old team. I mean, I don't want to be negative, but what's your biggest concern for this team going forward? And also, Jalen Hurts hasn't had any turnovers in the past 2 weeks, and we were riding home about that. That's why we lost the 2 games that we did because of his turnovers.
I would say my biggest concern is rhythm. If you stay in rhythm, you should be all right. Because 28-3, that's no slouch. Even though they were facing the Giants, I understand that. But if you're consistent with your offense, you're consistent with your defense, you have a quality team, and you can go anywhere you would like. I get that Kansas City never loses, and they just added DeAndre Hopkins, and Kareem Hunt looks like his old self. I understand that, but all you have to do is get to the Super Bowl, and it's a coin flip. So as long as you're in rhythm, that's all that matters. Last year, we were not in rhythm. So hopefully we just get back to that, and sky's the limit, my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. We'll definitely see him. And if we're looking at the big picture, teams that obviously scare me, it would have to be Detroit. They are probably the best team in the NFC right now.
Yep.
Obviously, San Francisco still with that losing record, so they have some work to do. We think that they'll be there at the end. But I also kind of said in the offseason, and you disagreed with me about them having a Super Bowl slump. Do you think it's a combination of that and Christian McCaffrey being out, or just when Christian comes back, this will be like the old 49ers again?
It's all injuries. I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't like the 49ers. I don't like them or their fans. If they had every player that they needed from their roster to be playing on Sundays and Mondays, they would be probably a 5-1 team right now, if I'm being completely honest with you. Injuries have killed them. They played the Chiefs at the absolute wrong time. And I actually thought the Niners were going to win that game, because George Kittle's been a beast. There's been rhythm there amongst the players. And,
yeah,
now they have to rely on.
That was your lock of the week. That was your lock of the week.
Yeah. And now they have to rely on Jawan Jennings, who's always hurt. They have to rely on a wide receiver who got shot in the chest just 2 months ago, and George Kittle, who's a tight end. So honestly, when they get everyone back, Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and whatnot, I feel like they'll be consistent again because they have a good defense. They have a great offensive line. They have a good coach. As much as he chokes, they still have a good coach. So they'll be there at the end, but they're derailed right now because of injuries for sure. 110%.
I do agree with you. Keep going around the NFC. All of a sudden, the Packers are 5-2. We did beat them week 1. However, obviously, if we see them again, that's going to be another great game. Talk about Tampa for a second. Of course, they just lost by double digits to the Ravens. Is Tampa like kind of like Cincinnati now and Seattle, like kind of a monkey on our back? Because I don't want to say that they're more talented than us. Of course, Baker Mayfield's been playing awesome this year. I think didn't Chris Godwin get hurt, but they still have Mike Evans. So
They
yeah,
both
is
get
Tampa
hurt.
a monkey on our back right now? If we see them
No,
again in the
not
playoffs?
they're not a monkey on our back right now. I mean, they just lost Mike Evans to week 11. Who knows if he's going to be the same this year because hamstring injuries are tough to
Oh,
deal
was
with.
it Mike Evans? I thought it was Chris Godwin too.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them got hurt. So Mike Evans is out for with a hamstring injury at least until week 11, but
Yeah,
hamstrings
that's
linger, so you never really know. And then Chris Godwin was in garbage time for no reason and snapped his ankle, so he's out. I don't know,
yeah.
man. I have to see how they play this week to make a full judgment call on it. But based off of the critical thinking, I feel the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have slid far down my power rankings this week, like far.
Yeah, and they're kind of like us, I would say, like us without AJ Brown and them without Mike Evans. They're just two completely different teams. Would you agree?
Yep, they definitely are.
100%. Again, the only other team, I mean, of course we lost to Atlanta, but we know we should have beat them. I mean, come on now. We lost by 1, and it was just the Saquon drop and then not trying to kick a field goal to win, trying to be Superman with Jalen Hurts. And then of course we're going to talk about Washington. I mean, that's our main competition. I do think that so right now we're the 7th seed. The season ended today. So it's kind of going to be a fight for the wild card spots, and I think our best, and of course we wanted to win the division, and that's our goal, and I think that's going to be the easiest way to get in. So those 2 games against Washington really could determine our season. Also, I don't know if this is a record or not, but right now the entire NFC North, their 4th place team, the Chicago Bears, is 4-2.
Yeah.
Like that's actually insane.
Yeah, no, it's literally insane. And going back to what you said about the Eagles, winning the division will be the easiest route in. Absolutely, especially this year since there's so many NFC teams in line to get that 7th seed. You really have to be on your A game and win the division. And it definitely helps that Jaden Daniels is out. Like I never like to see someone get hurt. But if his rib injury is going to keep him out 3 to 4 weeks, we all know what Mariota could bring, and that's really not all that much. So I feel like the Eagles need to take their stance right now, win the games they have to win, put themselves in position, and put away the Cowboys, put away the Giants, and then just focus on Washington, exploit their flaws, and then go into the playoffs and work your magic.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And like I said, to start this little NFC conversation, the only team that really, really scares me is Detroit. Obviously, they got a little bit weaker without Aiden Hutchinson, and Minnesota put up a lot of points. And then to touch on Minnesota, they lost to Detroit, their first loss. And I already see Vikings fans that want to bench Sam Darnold. So obviously, I'm not going to go that far after one loss. I know you are a lot higher on the Vikings than I am, but I mean that's just a little ludicrous to try and make that claim that you.
Yeah, I'm still really high on the Vikings. They lost a game versus the best team in the NFC. It's just crazy. Like I've had the Vikings at number 1 the whole year for a reason. That game at the end of the game was a coin flip. Like it really was. It could have went either way. And I'm not taking anything away from the Vikings. I just think that the Lions played a better game. The Vikings had a flaw and they capitalized on it. So they'll see each other again. Then we'll see what happens. But for right now, they're going to slide down a little bit in my power rankings, but not by much. I think Minnesota is still a very fundamentally sound football team.
By the way, is my camera still down or no?
No, you're a little bit delayed on audio, but you're still on.
All right. Well, sorry for technical issues this week, guys. What am I going to do?
Yep.
I guess we can just touch again on Eagles Bengals, so we can give a little bit of a prediction. So you said that your biggest concern for the Eagles still right now is rhythm, and we know they still haven't scored a first quarter point. Is that a concern for you, especially as we get to play the better teams? But newsflash, guys, the Bengals is one of our harder games left. You know, besides Washington twice, we will play the Ravens, who we know I'm extremely high on, and that claim has been backed up the past few weeks. So I'm interested to see where you finally have the Ravens in your power rankings. And, Ravens, Pittsburgh, I mean, and that's it. I mean, Dallas, of course, they're going to be in a free fall. I mean, if you look at their upcoming schedule, it's murderer's row, seriously. So, yeah, would you agree, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and this week are our hardest games left besides Washington?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that Baltimore game, to me, it's not going to show me much at all. And I'm saying that right now because you're playing in Baltimore where we never win. So it's not really going to be one of those things where you look at, you're saying, oh, we can't beat them in the Super Bowl. Number one, the Ravens never make the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. So that it's a moot point at that point. So you really have to see how the Ravens do in the playoffs on the AFC side. And number two, if they did get to the Super Bowl, it's a neutral site and they'd play a lot differently. So honestly, I'm going to look at that game with a grain of salt. I actually might go to that game just because it's not that far away. So we'll plan that for sure, but I'm not going to look at that game much. And
where's Super Bowl this year?
The Super Bowl is in New Orleans.
Interesting. And we just won on that field, so not that means anything, but
yep. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Our schedule's not that tough this year.
No, it really, really isn't. Another thing that I don't know if I mentioned on the show. So obviously we've been playing a ton of road games. We have another road game this week. But after we get through a little bit here, starting in week 13, we will not have to fly for the rest of the regular season. We're going to take a bus to Baltimore. Then our next 5 games, 4 out of 5 are at home. And the only game that's not is at Washington. So that is really, again, something unprecedented with this schedule. Of course, we know we had to go to Brazil. And then we, after that, besides the Falcons game, we went to New Orleans and Tampa. But how do you think, I mean, it's got to be an advantage from week 13 to week 18 to not get on a plane. I mean, that's a big advantage for us, I would believe.
It's a huge advantage. I mean, flying causes jet lag. It causes problems. It causes bag cancellations. Now, granted, it's probably not a problem for an NFL franchise, but flying can fuck with you. It really can. And the fact
it's exhausting. Exactly.
Yeah, and the fact that we don't have to do any air travel is huge, and it's a big advantage. It's not a small advantage. It's a big advantage for us. So I look at the schedule, and it's completely in our favor. We just need to capitalize.
110%. So just to wrap up, I'm going to take the Eagles this week. And my score prediction, I'm going to say, now I believe this would have to be a close game. I'm going to say Eagles 27, Bengals 24. I think that it could be a Jake Elliott field goal to win it.
I feel like we're going to score a ton of points this week. The Bengals defense is hot garbage. So I'm going to go 34 to 21 Eagles.
Wow. So you are picking, that's kind of like a blowout because right now the Bengals are still favored by 2. Last time I checked.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that line?
I think it's a line that it should go the Eagles' way because you get 3 points for being at home, and everyone's seeing, like you and me, that the Eagles haven't won there since before 2000. So it's one of those games where sharps are going to see they haven't won there. Let's pick the Bengals. It's easy money. And then the Eagles just destroy them. So, and if that happens, we're looking at a solid ending to the season. I will say that because this is one of the tougher games left on the schedule, in my opinion. So if you win this one, you can afford to lose a couple of games like that Baltimore game, and you're still looking pretty. So
110%. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's one of our toughest games left. I do want to touch on the defense a little bit because, it's been a huge conversation with this defensive line not being able to get pressure. I also I think Saquon was just announced as the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, so that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if that came out earlier or not. But this defense had 8 sacks. Again, we know it's against the Giants' woeful offensive line. It's against the worst quarterback in the league in Daniel Jones. And what they did, I think, how many fucking passing yards did he have? Like literally nothing.
Nothing. He had like maybe 110, if that's correct.
Something around there, I believe. But I think their longest, they had a 43-yard drive, and then their next longest was not even close to that.
Yeah, they got blown up.
It's actually pretty insane. And our boy Bryce Huff now has 1.5 sacks. So yeah, what are your expectations? Like, can the defensive line build upon that 8-sack performance, or are they going to come back down to earth?
No, I mean, well, Joe Burrow gets the ball out quickly. He has Jamar Chase. Obviously, we keep talking about them. But Joe Burrow is also one of those quarterbacks that doesn't run. So he's stationary where he is. So if Quinion does his job, if Slay does his job, I feel like we could sack him 4 to 5 times. Yeah, I think they could definitely get to him this week for sure.
No, that would definitely be great. Jalen Carter is leading us in sacks with 3. I think someone else may be tied with him as well. What about Zach Bond? I feel like he's kind of been a ghost a little bit lately. I know Nakobe,
but you're expecting that from someone like him because he's not a name. He's just someone we picked up and he's been working out for us. But he's not a name you're expecting him to get big tackles every single week. He's just been he's played very well with us. So you have to expect him to drop off a little bit, but he's been good.
Now, we also know that the Eagles finally ran under center this past game, and they actually used Ben Van Sumeren as a fullback. What are your thoughts on that? He's been, he's kind of been our backup linebacker. He's played on special teams. Apparently this kid's like really athletic. He's a fan favorite in the locker room. So yeah, what do you think about using him as a fullback more? And clearly it worked on Sunday.
This is how I view it. So the reason why the Eagles use the fullback on Sunday, I don't think it's going to be a consistent theme in this offense. I feel like they used them because the Giants just sucked that bad and they were experimenting against them. And they really didn't want to risk Saquon anymore. They didn't want to risk Gainwell anymore. So they just used the fullback as much as they can against a team that really wasn't doing anything. So they experimented with them. And I guess it worked a little bit, but at the same time, it's not something that's going to be consistent down the road, in my opinion, because the fullback position in the NFL is pretty much dead. So I just don't feel like it's going to be a consistent thing. I just feel like they did it because the team that we were playing they were inferior last week, and that's just how I see that.
100%. So I mean, I think it's a surprise maybe to everyone that we're both picking the Eagles over the Bengals, but after what we've seen, we bounced back, and the Bengals just aren't as good, and they really haven't been as good since they made the Super Bowl. All that. What was that? 20? Was that 19? 21? 21?
Yep.
So yeah, let's keep this train going, and let's. Do you want to move on to our power rankings for the week?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So if you want to pull up, and if you just want to give a little bit of a rundown, refresh the viewers of who we had last week. Actually, Corey Wold has Bengals 31, Eagles 13.
It's a bold prediction, but you have to take it out with a grain of salt because he said Joe Burrow better than Jalen Hurts. So you have to.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty big of a shock if we only score 13 points.
Yeah. All right.
My final score predictions, Brent, were I had the Bengals 27-24, and Kyle had 34-21.
Yep.
All right, cool.
All right, so week 8 power rankings powered by Logitech. Get your Logitech cameras everywhere you can find them. Scotty, I'm going to start with you. So last week you had the Texans at number 5. Does that stay the same or does that shift a little bit?
That is actually a great question. Obviously we know that the Texans are a good team. They fell to Green Bay. It was a hard-fought battle. We know CJ Stroud definitely showed a lot of emotion after that loss. And I will have to move them down, but I want you to give me a rundown of my full power rankings first of what I
All right,
have.
so your full power rankings are as followed. Number 5, you have the Texans. Number 4, you have the Minnesota Vikings. Number 3, you have the Detroit Lions. Number 2, you have the Ravens, and number 1, you have the Chiefs.
All right, cool. So for number 5, sorry, who did I have 4 again? I had the Vikings, and then 3 I had the Lions. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So for number 5, like if I'm going to take the Texans out, who am I going to put in? I am going to put in Buffalo. I think Buffalo returns after actually being down 10-0, surprisingly, against the lowly Titans. They came back and blew them out 34-10. Obviously, the week before, we saw them beat the Jets on Monday Night Football. Their division sucks, so they're going to have a great, great record because there's no other team. I mean, again, I think the Jets, after losing to Pittsburgh, it's going to be so hard to come back from that. I don't see it at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna have Buffalo at 5.
All right, so I'm gonna drop the Niners down to number 5. There will be
I can't believe you still have them in your top 5.
I do. I mean, I'm going based off of what I think is going to happen. So I have the Niners at number 5. They were at number 4 last week, just because the inevitable Christian McCaffrey coming back, going to come back at the right time. Jordan Mason's a great running back. They have a great coach. They've been there before. So I'm going to have the Niners at number 5 and have the Bucks sliding way down on my power rankings, way out of the top 5, way out of the top 10. And that's how that goes.
Awesome. So number 4 I had last week was the Minnesota Vikings, and they are sliding out of my top 5 because I have not been high on them. I still think it's a little bit of a fool's gold with Sam Darnold. They're still a good team. They're still 5-1, and they could have beat Detroit, but they didn't. There's no consolation prize for a close loss or a good loss. There is no good losses to me, unless you're kind of playing the Chiefs. That's about it. So number 4 for me, and moving up into the power rankings at this point, I hate to say it, and this probably is a little high for this team, but I think I'm going to put the Washington Commanders at number 4. They blew out Carolina 40-7, and they were actually up 40-0. Carolina scored a garbage time touchdown. And again, that was mostly Marcus Mariota scoring all of those points. Now, again, we know he sucked here last year. I mean, of course, I think he only played in the San Francisco game, if my memory serves me correct, besides the preseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, until this team, now they're not as good as Baltimore, which I had them losing, but this team blows out shitty teams and they play good teams close. So they really haven't looked weak at any point this year. Of course, they barely beat the Giants, but that's when still they were finding their footing, and that was only Daniel's second game. So yeah, I hate to do it, just because of obviously they're in our division, but I'm going to have Washington 4, and I never thought I would be saying that this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I don't have them in my power rankings yet, or probably ever, but at the same time, listen, we're definitely both bold at some things and some things we're not. So, all right, Commanders at number 4 for you. So, jumping in to my top 5 for the first time all season are the Baltimore Ravens. The reason why they're at 4 and not higher based off of how they're playing, and Lamar Jackson looks like he's going to be the MVP again. I say that confidently because he's good in the regular season. It's just the bet in the playoffs. But the reason why I'm saying that they're not going to go any higher than 4 right now is because their defense is flat out garbage. Like, their defense stinks to high hell. They give up so many points per game, and I just don't trust them right now when it goes down the road. But they're playing well, and Derrick Henry scores every week. So, they're at number 4 for me.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to them for me. Number 3, I'm going to stick with Detroit. Obviously, they really solidified themselves now as the best team in the NFC. I already had them pretty high. So in my other two teams, I don't want to put them higher than them because I don't think that they can beat them. But yeah, like I said earlier in the show, there are the Eagles' biggest competition. So yeah, I'm keeping Detroit the cream of the crop right now. Dan Campbell has really proven to be an outstanding coach, a player's coach, just a fun person to be around and someone that you really want to run through a wall for.
Mhm.
And then I think we finally need to put some respect on Jared Goff's name. This guy is really just turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and no one still really wants to say it. And, I would be one of those first people. He doesn't come to mind when you think about, even probably top 10 quarterbacks or like Jared Goff. He was dumped by the Rams. He lost in the Super Bowl. But I mean, this dude, I kind of would be shocked if Detroit doesn't make the championship game, NFC title game at this point.
Right.
So yeah, Detroit stays at 3 for me. They're a really, really good team.
All right. So number 3, Detroit stays the same. All right. For me, number 3, they were 1 last week. They're number 3 this week just because they lost the game, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. I'm still high on the Vikings. I like how balanced they are. Sam Darnold's playing well. They have Addison. They have Justin Jefferson, like I say every week. Aaron Jones. Tyson Chandler could come in and do a decent job when he needs to. Then you have Hawkinson coming back as their tight end. They're going to get better at that position. So I think that the Vikings deserve to stay in the top 5, and they could possibly be number 2. But right now, obviously, number 2, I have to put Detroit because they beat them.
All right, I'm going to call an audible for my 4 and 5 because you kind of talked me into it a little bit, and I kind of jumped the gun. I'm going to swap Washington and Buffalo. I'm going to have Buffalo at 4 and Washington at 5.
Okay.
Number 2 for me, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a surprise, I'm actually going to move the Chiefs down. I'm going to have the Chiefs at 2. Now, what they're doing is absolutely impressive. All the injuries, bringing back, the ghost of Kareem Hunt and him looking like the old one, it just shows how good Andy Reid is. He probably will go down as the best coach of all time if they win just even one more Super Bowl. I mean, he probably already could be, even with those 3 rings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I slid them down just a tiny bit just because they're not, they beat San Francisco, which is always impressive, but they're not blowing anybody out and they still have a lot of work to do. And, hell, they could just keep rolling now with DeAndre Hopkins. And will those injuries and not being familiar with Patrick Mahomes and his offensive weapons catch up to him at some point? Possibly. It didn't matter in previous years. But yeah, right now they're the second best team in the league for me.
Okay. Number 2 for me is the Detroit Lions. I think the Detroit Lions are as balanced as it gets right now. They're at the top of the NFC for sure, especially beating the Vikings in their own house. They went to the title game last year, so I have to start putting respect on them. They're showing their consistency, especially with losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I thought that was going to be a big hit on them, and it really wasn't. They have one of the best head coaches in the NFL right now. And I just have to give them props. So I'm giving Detroit for right now the number 2 spot.
And number 1 for me, you probably predicted. I'm so high on this team, and you're not. It's the Baltimore Ravens. I've been riding them, and they just keep proving me right. Beating the likes of Buffalo, Tampa Bay. They're just unstoppable at this point for me. They had that bad loss to the Raiders. They should have beat the Chiefs week 1, like I keep saying. They lost by 1 point, that 2-point conversion play. I think this has the potential to be a different Ravens team because they just battle back and win. Yeah, there's some problems on the defense, but defense does not win championships anymore. It can definitely help you in the playoffs in the month of December when the weather gets cold. But Derrick Henry has really just given this offense so much more reliability, and he's going to come in handy in the playoffs and down the stretch. And yeah, I just think this team is the best team for me in the league because they're consistent as of late, and they're also beating, good to great teams. So yeah, I'm riding Baltimore until they slip up. They've won 5 in a row. Yep. For me, that justified to be number 1, the best team in the league, the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. And number 1 for me, it might be a shock to some, especially you. Number 1 for me is Kansas City. They slid up to number 1 just because
Slid up.
yeah, just because of everything you've said. They've been winning with basically nothing, and they have in my opinion, the best coach in the league, and they're on track to win another Super Bowl, which kind of grinds my gears a little bit. But the fact that they brought in Kareem Hunt and he's looking like his old self, they don't even have Pacheco back yet. They just added DeAndre Hopkins today. Um, and he's going to be a beast on that team. DeAndre Hopkins was with a miserable situation in Tennessee. He's going to explode. They're going to have weapons every which way on that team. This team is going to go back to the Super Bowl with full force. They may win. They may lose twice this year. They may have a 15-2 record. So if that at this point, so give me Kansas City as my number 1 team.
So let's talk about that a little bit because you brought up an interesting point with Kansas City, obviously the kings of this league.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there's only 2 possible teams. I don't think Houston, as much as hyped up and as talented as they are, I don't see them beating Kansas City in the playoffs. So the only teams that have a chance to beat them is the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, they only beat the Bengals by 1 in week 2 when the Bengals were still trying to find themselves. And that was at Kansas City. Who do you think has a better shot? We know that Joe Burrow, beat Patrick Mahomes to make it to that Super Bowl. Obviously, the Ravens were not competitive last year in the AFC title game, but they only lost to them by 1 this year. If the Chiefs are going to lose, is it more likely to be the Ravens or the Bengals, and why?
The Bengals, because
or
the
do you
Bengals
see another team that can beat them?
No, it would be the Bengals because the Bengals already beat them when it mattered. The one time that they got into the Super Bowl against us, the Kansas City Chiefs got into the Super Bowl against us. Patrick Mahomes actually left the game early, so I think that actually threw them off a little bit because if Patrick Mahomes stays in that game, as crazy as it sounds, I feel like the Cincinnati Bengals would have made the Super Bowl that year because they had the film on them. They knew exactly what to do with them. The other guy coming out, who was it? Chase Daniel? I don't even remember. Came into the game and just threw to the sticks and threw them off completely. So if it weren't for Patrick Mahomes getting hurt that year, Cincinnati goes back to the Super Bowl for the 2nd year in a row. And that would be the one team to beat them. The Ravens, under no circumstances, are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Absolutely no circumstances. And I will bet anybody anything they want. It's not going to happen.
We will see. We should probably make a little bit of a bet later in the year.
So head of the table with a finger up says Bengals 34. He had some way to put it in 2 different comments. Bengals 34 and drumroll please, Eagles 23. So he is pessimistic when it comes to the Bengals and Eagles this Sunday. And this guy seems like he's always pessimistic. So it's not really shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you could, again, we talked about the history and how we haven't beaten them in so long. And then the line is what the line is, Bengals by 2, they're at home. But again, I just have confidence because the Bengals' only wins are against the Panthers, Giants, and Browns.
Right.
So.
I mean, you're going to have pessimism, but it's blind pessimism is retarded. Sorry about that word. It's stupid in my opinion. There is no way that the Eagles are only scoring 23 points on this Bengals defense. It's not happening, and I'm not sorry.
No, but I completely agree.
Yep.
Wholeheartedly. All right, do you want to move on to our picks for this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
A little bit of a recap, guys, because I know we haven't given an update in our overall records, but I finally got that squared away. And I'm pulling that up now. I can actually share probably my screen, which would be fun for this. I'm 63 and 44, and Kyle's 58 and 49 through 7 weeks. The past 2 weeks we did great in week 6. I finished 12 and 2. Kyle finished 11 and 3. And last week I finished 10 and 4, and Kyle finished 7 and 7. So a little bit of a down there, but it's pretty neck and neck. Trying to expand my lead a little bit there, and Kyle has a little bit to catch up. And also in the lock of the weeks, I'm 5 and 2, and Kyle is unfortunately 2 and 5, which is kind of
you can always work up from that, right?
Yeah, you got a little bit of ground to make up there. So let's share the schedule for this week. loads because I'm having all types of issues. All right, I'm going to present my screen and Kyle's going to show it to you guys, but I'm going to let Kyle start off with Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime Video. Minnesota, coming off that Detroit loss, travels to SoFi Stadium, Inglewood, California, LA to take on the 2-4 Rams.
All right, so Amazon Prime game, another doozy. Cooper Kupp is coming back from injury. Puka Nacua is probably coming back next week, so you're going to miss out on him on Thursday. It's not shocking because these Thursday night football games are just awful every single week. I don't even know why they have Thursday night football anymore. Like, there's no reason for it other than a money grab. The teams aren't playing at full strength. It's just stupid. But with that said, I have a game pick to make, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I am taking the Minnesota Vikings against the Rams because the Minnesota Vikings are the better team, and the Rams are a thing of the past, and they're getting older. So give me the Minnesota Vikings.
110%. And now, if you want to share that, I do have the games up there if you want to put on the screen.
Cool.
All right. I'm also going to pick the Minnesota Vikings. You know, they're just a better team than the Rams. Apparently Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp could be on the trade block. So again, that also doesn't bode well for our game against them on Sunday night. I mean, I kind of would be shocked now if it doesn't get flexed out. I don't know if they're going to do the Eagles dirty like that again. I'm sure Jeffrey Lurie's not, wouldn't be happy about that. But yeah, give me Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's in LA. Eagles and Rams again.
It is.
That's right before Thanksgiving too. That would suck.
Yeah, it definitely would. Next game, 1:00 games, Ravens at the lowly Browns. Without Deshaun Watson now, which might be a plus, but not really.
Yeah, no, let's just do this quickly and move on. I'm gonna go Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens as well.
No real explanation. I mean, maybe they have a better chance without Deshaun Watson because he was abysmal. But Jameis Winston is starting. That doesn't really say much. The Browns are just awful.
Jameis Winston?
Yeah. All right, Jameis Winston. Yeah, he's starting Mr. Crableg. I don't see him winning. So give me the Ravens.
Yeah, nothing really to say here. Baltimore as well. Our next game, another doozy. It's Titans at the Lions.
Oh my Lord. Titans at the Lions. Come on. I'm gonna go to the Lions. I mean, is there any way, shape, and form that the Titans can pull off an upset? Absolutely, there is. Will it happen? Absolutely not. Give me the Lions.
So you're saying that could be a trap game? I just don't see that.
It very well
be the ultimate trap game.
So if the Titans do upset that, you heard it here first. It could happen because that's one of those games where I look at them like, kind of fishy. But I like the fact that the Lions are doing what they're doing. They just beat Minnesota, but it would not shock me if this was a trap game because they're overlooking the Titans and the Titans beat them. But I'm going to take the Lions.
Finally, a decent game, and I know you guys are looking at this with us. This is the first week where there's unfortunately not too many good games. There's obviously a few. Mm-hmm. Colts at Texans. Colts beat the Dolphins 16-10 without Tua. I think Tua's coming back this week. But Texans should just be above and away a better team. This is a division game, but the Texans are at home. I think, I'm taking Houston here.
Yeah. So Houston is playing. I was just doing something important. Houston is playing the Colts. The Colts, I don't like. Give me the Texans.
100% agree. Another game we can go by quickly. Packers, Jags, Packers. Is Dougie P, is he on the clock? I know before they won last week when they beat the Patriots, Jaguars were saying that they saw players quit against the Bears in London. Is this, it's pretty relevant. It's almost like who cares at this point, but is Dougie P going to be the coach next year?
People are going to call me crazy for this, but I could actually see him being the coach next year just because he won a Super Bowl. He knows what he does. He knows what to do with a team with talent, and this Jacksonville Jaguars team doesn't have any talent on it. So I honestly think he's going to regroup next year. They're going to give him one more year to do his thing, and he'll be back. I don't think he's going to get fired.
Next game's kind of interesting. Cardinals coming off that win against the kind of an impressive win against the Chargers at home. It was in that weird 9:15, whatever time that game started on Monday. I didn't watch it. I'll just be honest. They're going to the Dolphins. And can you tell me for sure, is Tua playing? Is this the week he returns?
Yep, Tua's returning.
So you would have to think Miami wins this game. Cardinals at 1 o'clock traveling to Florida from Arizona. Give me Miami.
Yeah, Tua's back, which means Tyreek is back. So give me Miami. He's going to be explosive down the field. I have Hill on my fantasy team. I traded for him 4 weeks ago. I am excited. Tyreek Hill, he's the savior on my team. He's a bad person, but he's the savior on my fantasy team. My fantasy team looks scrumptious now, and I can't wait to see what Tyreek Hill does down there. Give me Miami.
Yeah, Miami just became irrelevant. They just became awful without Tua. No one's talking about them. Jalen Waddle, I don't even think got targeted in the last game until the fourth quarter, which is it's just awful and pitiful. Pitful. So yeah, give me Miami, and maybe they can do something in the AFC because there's definitely a possibility with that that seventh seed, and maybe they can try and chase Buffalo for the division, but doubtful at 2-4. But they're finally going to get a much needed win. Oh God, we have the Jets at the Patriots. One of the Jets' only wins was when they beat the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. I mean, hell, if they don't win this game, I mean, they should, and I'm sure you're going to pick them to do it too. But this game just means absolutely nothing to me.
We actually have some breaking news coming in here across the league. Alvin Kamara has a broken hand. So that means for fantasy owners that have been relying on his excellent play this year, you might have to start looking elsewhere because who knows if he's going to be playing with that.
And they just signed him. They sent him for a 2-year contract, so that's weird. I guess he broke it in practice or something.
Exactly. Thank God I have Zach Moss as my backup, which doesn't really mean much because Kamara, how the fuck do you replace him? But oh man, we'll see if he plays through that. But on my ESPN league, that just took a hit, so that kind of sucked. But it is
sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right.
So I'm sure you're taking the Jets as well, right? Over the Patriots.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would be the first time the Jets swept the Patriots in forever. But yeah, give me the Jets.
Another rematch from a great Thursday night game. Kind of weird that these teams are already, wrapping up their 2-game division series. Falcons at the Bucks. We knew the Falcons, that was such an exciting game last time. That was in Atlanta. And this was a game everyone was looking forward to. I don't know if you can see the logo, but it looks like the Bucks are going to be in their old creamsicle uniforms with that old pirate freaking mascot, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Bucks just aren't the same team. Now they are at home. And Atlanta's coming off a surprising loss to Seattle, another team that's just kind of like underrated with Geno Smith, new head coach, young players. And also they lost to the Giants. So they're just kind of a mystery team to me, the Seahawks. This is kind of I don't want to say it's a hard game to pick, only because the Bucks are at home. And they're coming off that. I don't know. This is a weird game. I guess I have to take Atlanta for the sweep, but something makes me want to pick Tampa Bay. Well, with no receivers, how are they going to win? How are they going to keep up with that offense?
It's a pretty educated pick.
I'm taking Atlanta.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy. I just busted your balls for that. Since you're taking Atlanta, I have to ride off somewhere else. I'm going to take Tampa Bay this week. I think Tampa Bay gets them back at home. It's a very tough place to play. Atlanta took one away from them at their home in overtime with a scrub wide receiver. They're still remembering that. Tampa Bay, I still think Baker Mayfield's playing at an excellent level. They're going to get him. Give me Tampa Bay.
Wait, did you think I was going to take Tampa or no?
I did.
Yeah. It's tough. I think that's probably the toughest game to pick, but I just don't see them keeping up without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Now they do have this like stable of running backs, but that's really their only chance. I don't even know who the number 3 receiver is on Tampa. Yeah. So, of course, our next game, we both picked the Eagles to beat the Bengals. And like you said earlier, this game getting flexed, it's clearly the best game here so far that we've even mentioned. So that's definitely the best 1 o'clock game by far, and I'm sure you would agree.
Mhm.
So obviously we're both taking the Birds. Moving on, Saints at the Chargers. The Saints have absolutely collapsed, and now with the Alvin Kamara injury news that you just mentioned, their quarterback fucking stinks. For some reason, I thought they would beat the Broncos last Thursday. That game was just non-competitive and sad for the Saints. Chargers also coming off a loss, but they're a lot better team right now, and they're at home. Give me the Chargers to win.
I like how you said that. You're like, their quarterback fucking stinks. Like,
He
you had the
does.
word stinks like it's not going to be offensive, basically using the word fuck first. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, give me the Chargers as well. The Saints are awful.
It's a shame. And such fool's gold. They started off 2-0, and now they've lost 5 straight games. I mean, even bringing Derek Carr back is not going to turn this team around. So Dennis Allen is definitely a candidate on the hot seat, and he probably won't be there next year.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, looks to be a good game. Hidden in here at 4:05, it's Buffalo at Seattle, which not many people are going to see this game because it's the Bears in Washington. We'll see. I don't think Fox will probably air this. You're gonna have to watch this game on Red Zone.
Yeah.
Bills at Seattle. This is actually interesting. Seattle's coming off that really good win against Atlanta, and they were on the road in Atlanta, right? Yeah, I think they were. Buffalo, Seattle.
Where are you seeing that? I don't see it anywhere.
Right here at 4:05.
Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay.
Why do I want to take Seattle here? I kind of do, and I am taking Seattle.
You're taking Seattle.
I am.
I'm taking Buffalo. Seattle's a tough place to play, but let's be real here. The Buffalo Bills are better than Seattle in every which way. DK Metcalf got hurt, so that's one less target. So I'm gonna go Buffalo.
Don't disagree. I just think I don't know. I could just see Seattle winning. I just do. I think it'd be like a field goal. Like you
That's
said, it's
fair.
tough pace to play. All right, the game that got flexed out for us, which won't be as good now without Jaden Daniels. Chicago at Washington. So, Marcus Mariota is all but starting this game. It's in Washington. We just saw Washington blow out Carolina. Chicago is better than Carolina, obviously, but I wouldn't say Chicago is like a top tier team. They beat the Jaguars. They're beating teams that they're better than, but we haven't really seen them beat a good team like Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Is Washington going to be 6-2 though? All that said, I think I'm going to take the Bears just because they have their starting quarterback and Washington doesn't. And now people actually are going to game plan for Mariota, and they're probably going to shut him down. So that's my pick. I'm going to take Chicago.
Yeah, give me Chicago as well. They figured out how to use Keenan Allen for once, and I feel like that's going to be a big target down the road for them. Yeah, give me the Bears.
We also are being like homers a little bit because we don't want Washington to be 6-2.
Exactly, and they're underdogs at home. There's no way they're winning. That's actually my lock of the week. Give me the Bears as my lock of the week.
Okay, I like that. Like that for sure. Panthers at the Broncos. Give me Denver.
Yeah. I would have to agree with you. Give me Denver.
Hey, you've been picking Carolina a lot, and they've kind of bitten you. I can't believe you picked Carolina over Washington last week, but you tried.
Yeah,
you tried.
Sometimes I'm oblivious to my surroundings.
Chiefs at Raiders. I mean, Raiders are fucking terrible. Come on, it's got to be the Chiefs.
If there was one game that the Chiefs would lose this year, it's to a team that is nothing. Like the Raiders last year were nothing too. The only reason why they won that game last year is because Antonio Pierce stepped in and they beat them in Arrowhead. If there was one game the Chiefs could lose to, it would be the Raiders, and this would be the week for that. But I'm going to pick the smart pick. I'm going to take the Chiefs, but it's another one of those games where if the Raiders won, I wouldn't be surprised.
Interesting. Finally, like an interesting game. Cowboys are back on Sunday Night Football. They're coming off their bye week. Now, excuse me. Now, I would never pick the Cowboys to win this game. But if
Mhm.
San Francisco won last week, I would say the Cowboys have more of a chance. But San Francisco needs to pile up some wins here. Like San Francisco at 3-5 just doesn't sound right, and that's going to be
Yeah.
hard to come back from and really hurt them down the line. And they're just better than Dallas. Like it doesn't matter how much time Dallas has to prepare for this game. They haven't beaten this team in so long. Again, it's not even in Dallas; it's in San Fran or Santa Clara. I mean, I think it's going to be my lock of the week. Actually, it's going to be San Francisco to win.
Give me San Fran. The Dallas Cowboys are an awful football team. Awful, awful, awful football team. The 49ers with Ricky Persall as their wide receiver and George Kittle as their two weapons are going to beat the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are freaking awful. Yeah, give me the Niners.
Is the Dallas's defense their Schneid? I mean, look at Dan Quinn. Look what he's doing with Washington. I think he was a bigger loss than anyone realized.
Oh,
But are you
100%.
still surprised that Dallas's defense is this bad under Mike Zimmer?
Not really. I think they were always overrated. I mean, Mike Zimmer is an exceptional defensive coordinator. They look awful. So it's yeah, they're not pieced together well at all.
And the last game again, I mean, fuck, they should have flexed us to Monday night. Honestly, you wanted to do a double change
I don't think
because
you can do that.
Giants at the Steelers.
Steelers.
Two big markets, I guess you could say, two, treasured famous franchises, but Daniel Jones has got to be benched soon. There's no way. We just saw surprisingly Russell Wilson go off against the Jets defense, who is decent, supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league. And this team has really surprised me. It's great Mike Tomlin coaching, decision making. No one thought Russell Wilson would come in and play well, especially with them winning with Justin Fields, pretty much throughout this first half of the season. I mean, this is going to be a Russell Wilson possibly return to prominence game or in prime time because, I mean, they're going up against that Giants team that just can't do anything right. So, yeah, give me Pittsburgh.
Yeah, give me Pittsburgh as well. I mean, the Giants stink. They couldn't move the ball at all. And it's like, hey, and by the way, Corey Wold, if you want me to answer your question, send us a super chat. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're gonna kill them. The Giants couldn't move the ball against us, and yeah, it's not gonna happen in Pittsburgh, especially with Russell Wilson having that dynamic with George Pickens. Finally, Pickens has a quarterback, and you saw how good he is. Yeah, there is no way that the Pittsburgh Steelers lose to the Giants. I'm actually shocked I'm not picking this as the lock of the week. Yeah, Corey Wold, I am begging.
I agree. I mean, it would be a pretty much of a it would be a slam dunk for you, 100%.
All right, fine. I'll switch my lock of the
So
week.
if you want to catch up in your locks, you could.
Yeah, I'll switch to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, cool. I'm gonna stay with San Fran because I'm gonna go. I've been taking some easy wins past couple ones. So, all right, cool. You're changing to Pittsburgh. Gosh, it's blowing up right now on my phone. Just to wrap up the show, of course, we're both taking the Birds over the Eagles. I'm sorry, the Birds over the Eagles, the Birds over the Bengals. But I wanted to wrap up just with one last topic, just some NFL news. Again, we talked about the trade deadline. We're approaching it fast. Are the Eagles, are they going to do anything, at this trade deadline?
So Corey Wold, and 1 second, Scotty. Corey Wold. So you're saying basically every
and you're going to go off.
He said every Eagles fan I've talked to hates him. I don't hate him. I think Nick Sirianni is a very good head coach. The people that can't be patient for a little bit hate Nick Sirianni. They make fun of him for shaving his head during breast cancer awareness month. They don't like the way he talks to people. They don't like this. They don't like that. Listen, this guy is one of the more successful head coaches in our franchise's history, and you guys just hate every little thing. I don't know if it's because the Phillies had that nasty choke job or what it is. That was expected by most people outside of Philly. Only the Phillies fans thought they were going to go to the World Series. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But the fact of the matter is Nick Sirianni is one of the more successful head coaches in Philadelphia Eagles franchise history. I don't know how you could hate him. I just feel like that's a personal issue. So, and yeah, if I'm going to read your comment on air and show it on there when you're clearly being a hater or a troll or both, yeah, it's got to be a super chat. I don't beg for money. I don't do anything. But if we're going to grow this program for everyone, trolls, great people, the public, the general public, the people we don't like, yeah, it's going to have to come with some money because that's how the world works. So if you want to send an asinine comment to us and I'm going to read it on air and I'm going to put it on air, send us a super chat. I'll read whatever you want. It could be politics. It could be anything. Send us money and we'll do it. There you go.
100%. Absolutely.
So what were you saying?
Last thing I just want to end with, I was talking about the trade deadline. Sorry, guys. I need fucking water. The Packers pretty much have two players on the trade block, and it's our old friend Andre Dillard, left tackle, and we know Jordan Mailata has been down. And then Preston Smith. Would you be interested in either of those guys?
So Jordan Mailata?
So Jordan Mailata has obviously been down. So our old friend Andre Dillard is on the trade block with the Packers.
No.
And then they also have Preston Smith, defensive end.
Anyone but Andre Dillard works for me.
Now, do you think Howie is just not going to trade because, you know, how bad the Jahan Dotson trade is and doesn't want to get fooled again?
Yeah. I sorry, I'm just like texting someone. It's kind of important. But what'd you say?
I was going to say, do you think Howie's hesitant to pull another trade now because of the Jahan Dotson trade and how much that was, you know, he regrets that, I'm sure?
No, because you have to view it as this. Jahan Dotson deal, I don't think it's a bust yet. I feel like he could still find his form here, especially because the offense is getting better. But at the same time, he did nail 2 draft picks in the draft. So it's like, yeah, for every one bad trade, and he gave up a 3rd round, I understand that, but we got 2 really good pieces in the draft this year that look polished and they're just rookies. So I don't think he's going to be afraid to pull that lever if he wanted to trade on this team. So no, I don't think he's going to hold back. I think, you know, obviously I question a lot of what Howie has done the last couple of years, especially like falling into picks and whatnot, but he's been proving me wrong lately, and I got to give him some credit, and I don't think he's going to be afraid to do anything. No.
So at this point, I would have to say it's like 40-60% that they trade for someone just because they don't have that many glaring needs. Like you're not going to trade for another D tackle because you have a ton, even though you could use another one possibly. So yeah, I think it's more unlikely that he'll pull the trigger, which would be surprising for him. Would you agree? Is it more likely or unlikely that they're actually going to make a trade?
Oh, they're definitely going to make a trade because they're going to go at the beginning of the football season where things weren't working out for us on the pass rush situation, and they're going to look for edge rushers or somewhere to get the pressure from, and that's honestly what I feel is going to happen.
Yeah, I think it would be a DN as well. I don't know who. So
I don't either. I'm still holding out for Max Crosby, but we will see.
That would be a blockbuster. That really would. Seriously.
Absolutely. I would love to have that 3rd round pick to do it, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So wrapping up here, guys, you know, it should be a great game against the Bengals. And I feel like, you know, we're finally going to have like a true test and a lot to talk about. Obviously, it was a great win versus the Giants, but again, it was just the Giants. Now we're actually going to play a decent NFL team to really evaluate this team since, you know, the bye week and the Bengals' awful game and these past 2 wins. So next week's show and Sunday should be a lot of fun, 100%. And we're both taking the Eagles. Any final thoughts, Kyle?
No, my final thoughts are pretty much the Corey Wold in the comment section. So he's basically saying that I have he's basically saying that I have a narcissistic attitude. Hey, listen, you could think whatever you want of me. Obviously, I want to be better than like a lot of people in the world. Like that's the whole goal. Like get the most money than everybody, be the best you could possibly be the best content creators on YouTube. Listen, if
Yeah,
that
have
makes me
confidence. Yeah.
if that makes me a narcissist, so be it. But at the end of the day, if you're gonna say some stupid shit on a show that's not full of stupid people, I'm not gonna put it up there because I don't want to make my audience dumber based off the shit you're talking. So if you're gonna say something stupid or something you think is gonna gauge attention that's negative attention, at least send us some money and we'll do that. Other than that, I'm not gonna read it unless you have something smart to say. So at the end of the day, thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching. But yeah, stupid comments like that, I'm not going to read on the air for free. And that's just that. But again, thank you for showing up. And hopefully you like and subscribe to the channel. And anyone that likes this show, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, share it around, and we'll be back every Sunday and every Wednesday. And that's all I got to say. There you go.
Yeah, no, Kyle's definitely, he's not a narcissist. I've known Kyle for years. He definitely cares about people, loves his friends, has done a ton of nice, generous. Definitely a generous person. So,
Let me
I mean,
let me ask you a question.
you don't know Kyle from Adam, but
Let me ask you a question, Corey. Have you ever followed me as Nitro Freak? Because he's saying I have an attitude. All right. So my whole character and persona was based off of an ego. Like that character I had after games, like granted, I would drink all the time and it would be even more entertaining. I don't really drink all that much anymore. And yeah, 6,000 subs is a lot more than other people have. I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, Kyle, he's just trolling at this point.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course
he's
he's
been
trolling, but
trolling the
I'm
whole
giving him
time.
what he wants because we need the show to go on to 130 and it's at 121. So I'm giving him what he wants. And at the end of the day, listen, I'm grateful for 6,000 subs. There's people that can't even get 100 subs. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just going to keep growing this thing. And I hope you come back to every single show we have. And it's going to be a blast, whether you're here or not. So, can't wait.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch there. But if you do want to keep the show going to 130, if we have anyone else watching that wants to comment, that wants to ask us about anything, of course, we said before we are taking super chats for any off the wall, somewhat controversial comments, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, and I'm,
But
I'm gonna give you guys the backstory to that real quick. So we're not begging for money like Corey Wold's saying. What we're basically saying is super chats will help this show grow immensely.
well, we also had a lot of controversial comments in the past a few shows ago that were
Yeah,
extreme. So that was also where this idea came from.
like yeah, I could take money out of my pocket and grow it even more. I would love to do that. I'm just saying that if super chats did come in, it would help us take that money and grow this show for you guys. And this show's going to grow regardless. It'll just grow it faster. And that's basically all we're saying. We're not begging like Corey Wold is saying. We love you, Corey Wold. I love you, Corey Wold. I think you're a good guy. I don't really know you all that well, but I like the fact that you're tuning in. So that's great. But all we're saying is it would help build the channel, and that's the ultimate goal. And if you guys could donate anything, anytime, anywhere, we'd be much appreciated of it. That's basically all we're saying to that.
110%. 110%.
And thanks for checking in, Star Force. Pretty much because comment, and I'm going to show his comment. It's probably going to piss off Corey Wold because comments relating to the Eagles or football in general will be shown for free. Exactly. Anything off the record and not trolling will be shown for free, and that's pretty much that. Nick Sirianni is, and I'll show that because you obviously will feel better. So Nick Sirianni is Eagles related, but I'm just sick of people hating on Nick Sirianni, so I don't have to show it if I don't want to. And I think he's doing a really good job, and he loves his Eagles.
I can touch on Nick Sirianni just a little bit.
Okay.
Of course, we covered him after that Browns game when he was, under fire, the national media #1 story. At the end of the day, if he makes the playoffs again this year, which we all think he will, he'll be the only Eagles head coach to make the playoffs in their first 4 seasons. And he also joins a very elite NFL coaches of all time. I think it's like 3 to 5 coaches that have ever done that, which is insanely impressive. So those are just the facts. Am I a fan of his antics and everything that he always does? Hell no. I think it's like childish, and it just comes off wrong, even if it's not what he means to say. Like how he attacked the fans or was playing around with them, whatever words you want to use against the Browns. But again, we liked it in 2022. But when you're losing or when you're barely beating the worst team in the league, we're not going to like that. It comes off wrong. But as long as they keep winning, no one's going to have a problem with the head coach. It's only when he acts like a buffoon and they lose. So which is justified in my opinion.
And Corey, I don't think much of Sean Payton at all. I thought he was a part of a cheating scandal, and I'm not a big fan of his either, to be honest with you. I think that Sean Payton got Russell Wilson kicked out of Denver, and Russell Wilson looked like he's thriving in his first game with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they didn't give him any time, and he's a weasel. So that's how I think about Sean Payton, and hopefully you hate him too. You do hate him. That's great. But going to Star Force 97 says, I remember when you guys started with Zach, Trevor, and Zomp. Yeah, those were the three that started with me. But now it's the Scott and Kyle show, and it's going to be from here on out.
100%.
Yep.
Broncos is a toxic organization. Sucks.
I'll entertain that. I'll entertain that one. The Broncos, I will say this. If you find a new head coach, you're on the right track. I feel like that defense is spectacular, especially with Patrick Surtain. Courtland Sutton's a good piece. Bo Nix, who knows? It's his first year. I think they'll be decent in the years to follow. I just don't really like Sean Payton in that situation, honestly. And if you find a good head coach, well, not a good head coach, but a coach that fits, I think you'll be something. I really do. I mean, Bo Nix doesn't impress me either, but you just never know. So
yeah, I mean, obviously there's something wrong with you guys. You haven't made the playoffs since you won the Super Bowl in 2015, and that was almost 10 years ago, in January or the following season, whatever it was. I guess it was the 2016 Super Bowl, but 2015 season. Yeah. I'm not as harsh. I know I do think Sean Payton's overrated, but last year it's kind of hard to break that culture, and now they have a winning record right now. We'll see how their season ends up. I don't know. I think he's going to be there for a while. I mean, Walmart just paid him all that money to come back and be their head coach. So I think he's going to be there. And I wouldn't be surprised now, or do I think they're ever going to be the best team in the AFC and take over Kansas City? No. And that should be your goal to, beat the number one team in your division. And that's probably just never going to happen. Yeah. And also I just, Bo Nix is not in the same league as Patrick Mahomes and not even close, and
he's
never will be.
He's not in the same league as Russell Wilson either.
But of course there was issues. I mean, that whole thing was toxic. He had his own office, his own floor and all that shit. And that's not a thing in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. Now, Sean Payton wasn't the head coach when that was happening. It was Nathaniel Hackett, who we know only lasted, wasn't he fired mid-season? I think he was.
Yep.
So, yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. But
all right. Well, anyway, this show's going off the rails with some of these comments. So we're glad to entertain you guys. We're glad to talk. I mean, you guys are what makes the show, obviously. We had a decent amount of live viewers from what I'm seeing. So this was a good show, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But, yeah, join us after the game on Sunday. It's probably going to be around, I'm going to say 6-ish or 7-ish. We did it at
I wanted to watch that game with you. It was at 4:25. Maybe I don't know what your plans are. I know you like golf every.
Do you want to watch it
right now?
I
would. Yeah, I definitely would want to meet up, or you could come over or whatever.
Yeah, let's watch. Let's go to a bar, whatever. We'll watch it. We'll do the reaction right after, and yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's been a while because I don't think I've watched a game with you since the Falcons.
It's Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll obviously go to the Commanders game in, November 14th. And then maybe we'll hit one or two more games after that. Maybe Baltimore, who knows. But we will see what happens. But anyway, guys, we will join you right after the game on Sunday. Maybe we'll be like 20 minutes late. But, yeah, it should be a blast. And go Birds. We got to – in my opinion, it would be great to win this game. If we lose this game, it would suck. But we just never win there. So we'll see what happens. And go Birds.
Take care, guys. Have a good week.